Hello everyone, this is Rob with the AIM Endurance Group. Just kind of wanted to go over some upper body stretches for you, particularly geared towards pre-workout type of exercises, as well as in between sets. The whole thing you have to remember is if you're feeling a tight muscle anywhere during your exercising, that's your body's way of trying to tell you that it's got either a trigger point in formation or whether it's got just a muscle that's trying to shorten up on you, and you might want to take a few minutes to just stretch that particular area and or muscle group, and we want to kind of walk you through those. What we always like to say is we like to keep it easy, so we start from the top of the body and go straight down. First thing we like to do is just have you drop your head down, literally just let the weight of your head drop and just let it kind of circulate all the way around. And the tendency is that your body's going to want to pick the head up, and what I want you to think about is just let the weight of your head kind of lean forward and lean backwards as you go in circles. Okay? One of the things that we always like to point out is if you get to a particular range of motion and it really grabs or bites hard, you might just want to take and put your finger in where that hot spot is at and try to turn that neuromuscular pathway off. A lot of times when you get a real tender spot, you're in a pain spasm pain mode and you need to interrupt that pathway. So just take the time to stretch your head both to the right as well as to the left. The second thing that we want to go into would be the shoulder girdle itself, particularly up into where the anterior, middle, and posterior deltoids are at. And the best way to do that is just to kind of circumnavigate your arm around. It doesn't matter if you go forwards or backwards. The thing to remember is that your chest always needs to be going forward. If you find yourself kind of moving out of the way, more than likely you've had some kind of injury to that shoulder joint and to that capsule itself. You don't want to try to just sling it through by throwing a lot of momentum at it. What you want to think about is just moving slowly, and again, trying to pay attention to where you may have some catches or hiccups as the tendons and the ligaments move around the head and the capsule of that shoulder joint. Okay, just want to make sure that you get both sides, both forwards and backwards is going to be the key. All right. From there, what we always like to do is just kind of, while you're standing up, just kind of move from left to right. All right. Before we try to stretch any particular muscle group, we always try to go after some kind of movement before we go into a deep static stretch. All right. So as we move down here, we've got our upper body kind of in a motion of movement. We then want to go into the stretching of the chest. Now you can do one of two ways. We like to use something stationary, or you can just kind of bring your arms back behind you and you can open up your chest that way. The only limiting factor with that is it's difficult for you without having something to push against to open up the shoulder girdle itself, the chest cavity. So we like to have you come up against something that's stationary. It could be a doorway, it could be your training buddy. Okay? But the idea is at 90 degrees, the idea is that the bottom arm is always horizontal to the ground, and you're just going to rotate your chest away from your stationary point. All right? You'll feel that stretch into the pecs and into the armpit. And then what we want you to do is just kind of come out, straighten the arm out, and this is going to deepen the stretch from the chest into the internal, in between the ribs, the intercostal muscles, and then into your lower lats. The latissimus dorsi inserts into the lower hip, into the top of the hip girdle. All right? And then you just want to switch sides. So again, you just want to have it at 90 degrees. You want to rotate against it and away from it. You want to come into it with an arm straight, get into the lower back as well as the chest. All right? Then, as you move down from the chest and into the core, as silly as it feels, what you want to do is just kind of hold your hips stationary and just kind of move. And I would really suggest that you keep your hands on your hips. For a lot of you, when you get into this posterior tilt like that, if you've had any back issues in the past, or if your back is already overly tight, it may grab. And if you just are letting the weight of your body go, you could really hurt yourself. But what you want to do is just kind of rotate. Imagine you're rotating on the axis of your spine, and you want to go both forwards and backwards. And again, your whole idea here is that you just want to pay attention to what's tight. Our goal here is to get the external obliques, the rectus abdominis group, everything that you're going to be using through activity needs to be warmed up. All right. From there, what we like to do is go right into the hips, which is going to be your glutes, your quads, and your hamstrings. If you haven't had a chance to already go to our other videos, we have 2 videos that have been captured on the hamstrings and the quads. But just to briefly review those, the key is that you want to have that bottom leg forward. And what you're going to do is you're just going to stretch straight down to isolate your hamstrings. You want to come back up to neutral. You want to let the leg rotate outward. That's going to isolate the abductor, the inside of the leg. Come back up to neutral. Come out to the other side and back down. Now for the sake of your video, I'm going through them relatively quickly, but what you want to think about is you want to hold each stretch in a static position for about 3 to 5 seconds. If you feel the tension, it's called the myotactic stretch reflex. If you feel the muscle really starting to grab and jolt, you need to back off a little bit. Okay, you don't want to be pulling that attachment off the bone. It totally defeats the purpose of stretching. So by doing that exercise there, you've got your hamstrings, the inner and outer part of your hips. Okay, and then the last one that you're going to want to do for quadriceps is just let your knee point straight down, a little bit of a gap between your heel and your bottom. Notice that I'm sitting up nice and straight. If I want to deepen the stretch, I tilt my hips. The key is to not yank your foot up to your bottom. It just puts a lot of stress on the patella tendons. Okay, for those of you who have fought patella tendonitis in the past or maybe chondromalacia, you want to make sure that you're not overstretching the quads. Pay attention. If you only get to a certain range of motion and you feel a lot of tension, then that's as far as you need to be going for that particular range of motion. Okay. The one thing that I want to show you, you may not always have access to a flat area. You can do them on a fit ball, you can do them on a flat bench, and it's really designed as more of an injury prevention. It's very subtle. It's hard to say what muscles they are because to give you the names would be irrelevant. It's the small attachments that keep the arm joint in this socket joint, okay? And the supraspinatus and infraspinatus are the two muscles that you're going to be stretching out, okay? And what you want to be thinking about is you want something very light. This is only 5 pounds, okay? It's not how much weight you use. And you'll notice that I'm starting with my arm horizontal to the ground. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that go back and drop. Notice my arm is still horizontal. And I'm just going back till I feel a stretch in my shoulder. Hold that for 2 to 3 seconds. Now I'm just going to anteriorly rotate it until I feel a little bit of tension in the shoulder, and then I'm going to stop. If you use too much weight, you're not going to be able to stop it. You're going to tear your shoulder. But by adding just a little bit of weight, it's going to take it through just about 1 or 2 degrees further than normal, which is going to give you that stretch that we're looking for in the shoulder. Now, if you are somebody who thinks that stretching needs to be a race or a challenge, I wouldn't recommend you do this. This is probably one of the easiest ways to destroy your shoulders. But unfortunately, if you've ever gone through any swimmer's shoulders or any tendonitis of the shoulder joint, when you go into rehab, what they're going to do is they're going to hook you up with TheraBands, and they're going to have you be doing these type of range of motions. Whether the band is coming this way and you're pulling in, or the band is this way and you're pushing out, all they're doing is they're working on those stabilizer muscles in the shoulder. This exercise right here, that stretch, will help keep that range of motion in place. Okay? So don't think that stretching is only relevant to the oversized muscle, familiar ones, quads, hamstrings, chest, pec major, lats, upper traps. Don't just focus on the big muscle groups. You have to remember there's the small ones that support the big ones. So I hope that helps you out. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. Until next time, thanks for watching.